Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we just did like a podcast presentation for EPU as well. We did that yesterday actually.
Ooh, I'm
So
excited.
that should be, yeah, that should be fun. It was a good conversation. It was me, Andy, Zach, and another PE teacher here, Fernando. So after EPU, I'll probably release that. And who knows, maybe get back in the podcasting game.
Okay, Jorge, if you want to start?
Yeah, yeah. Are we on? Are we live?
I think so.
Looks like we're going. I've got the recording on Zoom going already, and we are letting people in. We're at 60
right.
people in the room right now.
Okay, maybe we'll just wait a little bit, and people that are in the room now, can you just put in the chat box? I will ask in a few minutes you to put in the chat box your name. First name is fine, and where you're currently located. So if you could do that, that would be great. And then maybe Andrea or Matthew, you can mention, just let us know where people are from.
Matt, I think you're muted.
That's really funny. I don't normally do that badly. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully I won't cause some issues with some mispronunciations, but Kuwait, Denver, Colorado, Brazil, Uzbekistan, from Colombia, but working in Qatar, Jordan, Qatar, Minnesota, Saudi Arabia, Chile, Indonesia, Montreal, India, Oman, Seattle, India, Wisconsin, Laos, Austin, Texas, Indianapolis. Oh, Aaron Beagley, very well-known person in our field. Bangkok, Florida, Indonesia, UAE, Qatar, Portland, Oregon, but from Belgium. Derek from New York is here, my counterpart at Shape America. North Carolina, Wasau, Wisconsin again. Oh, Joe Bailey's in. Cape Town, Doha,
Oh,
South Korea, Melbourne, UAE again, Budapest, Rice. Okay, I'm not sure KSA. I don't know what
Kingdom
Kingdom of
of
Saudi
Saudi
Arabia.
See, I learned something new today. Thank you. Qatar, India, Indonesia, Lebanon, New York, Kuwait, Jordan, India, from Canada though, UAE, Kuwait, but from Bosnia, India, Dubai, Germany, Mauritius. I'm not sure where that is. I'll have to look that one up.
Mauritius,
Italy,
maybe?
India, Boston. Oh, it's Betsy. Mozambique. Adam Metcalf is here from Chicago. Mozambique, Connecticut. Majera is here. I'm not keeping up with the chat very well. India. India. Hong Kong. I think this might be the most diverse Zoom room I have ever been in my life. This is awesome.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I really appreciate it. I know I was just recently in Mozambique doing some training down there. It was my first time in Africa. Amazing school, and I know one of their teachers, Isufu. He's here, so thanks for being here. Okay, I'm going to get started now. So everybody, firstly, just to check in right now, do you see the bar across the room and or across the top of the screen, or do you just see a blank screen?
We see a mostly white screen
Okay,
with the visual in it.
okay, because I'm getting the signs of people coming in the waiting room and stuff, so I don't know how to get out of that. But anyways, okay, so first of all, I just really want to honor the knowledge and wisdom and experience that all of you bring into today's session. I really appreciate it. I'm connected with many of you on social media. I know you're very experienced teachers, so I really thank you for your time. And I also want to acknowledge that it's the weekend. So obviously there's a real commitment to learning and growth. This is a Saturday for Jorge and I in Saudi Arabia. It's actually Sunday for us because we start school on Sunday. Actually, our weekend is on Friday and Saturday, like anybody in the Middle East that's here. So I really want to acknowledge that commitment to growth and learning. And I think one of my biggest hopes is that all of you walk away with at least one new idea that you can apply in your own teaching right away, starting next week. And that is my biggest hope. And to obviously share. So we're going to put this video on YouTube. So once it comes out, I'll put it up on Facebook, the PE Central. And I'd ask you all just to share it with anybody who you feel will benefit from listening and watching it. Obviously, special thanks to Jorge, Matthew, Rhys, Andrea, Jessica, Andrea and Jessica, who I just met. So yeah, thank you for help with this session today. I really appreciate it. We've already learned where you're from, different parts of the world, as Matthew said, like very diverse group here, which is amazing. We're using the hashtag for, I can't say X, but I'll say it. Twitter, what once was, but now X, we're using the hashtag Andy Vasily PEPD 2024. So at any point during the session, if something resonates with you, feel free to take a screenshot and share it on X using that hashtag. And it's a good way for us to connect as a group on X as well, using that hashtag. So what I would really love to see, one of my biggest hopes is if you are applying any of the ideas that you learned today, I would love to see a picture of that in action. And then maybe even if it's next week, you're using that hashtag and sharing that. So thank you for that. And today is really going to offer what I feel is a different perspective. And because we're all from different contexts around the world, you all have your own unique context. So what I'm sharing today, I'm not implying is the right way to do it. It's just something that I continually tinker with in my own teaching. I was an instructional coach here for 6 years in Saudi Arabia, then went back to full-time teaching. So it's been a real challenge for me to apply these ideas myself. I train teachers around the world using these ideas. So I need to be able to apply them myself, and I work really hard at it. So I'm going to share some of those ideas with you today. And I want you to keep two things in mind as we venture through this session today, is that what I'm sharing today is really about creating assessment-capable learners who can self-adjust. And I think that's the key. So for any IB teachers out there right now, this is where the IB is going in the next 3 to 5 years. They really want to emphasize helping to develop assessment-capable learners who can self-adjust on their own. So removing ourselves from the teacher from being the person doing the assessing. Of course, we'll still do that, but we want to prioritize the students becoming assessment capable and to self-adjust their learning based on that. And one of the questions I'm really trying to explore myself, and the question that I hope all of you will explore, is how can we create the most meaningful learning experiences possible in our lessons and units? So again, assessment capable learners can ask themselves, where am I going? Okay, where am I now? And how can I close the gap? And for us to be able to offer those experiences to the kids, differentiation is the key. So you're going to get a glimpse into that today. And I know many of you highly prioritize differentiation in your classes. But this is just going to show you the way that I've learned to do it over the past few years. And at the end of the day, I think regardless of who we are, who our students are, students want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to feel valued. They want to feel a sense of belonging. They want to feel safe, and they want to be successful. So it's through those lenses that I pitch everything I do with student learning. I want them to feel seen and heard and valued, feel a sense of belonging, feel psychologically safe. And I think differentiation allows us to ensure psychological safety because every kid, every student has an entry point to learning rather than having to do something that's too difficult or too easy. Each student has their own entry point. So I'm going to welcome my wife now, Neela Steele. She is a practitioner, a therapist, a compassion inquiry therapist, mindfulness instructor, and does a lot of visualization. So she's going to take you through a visualization just to kind of help ground ourselves and help us move forward in this session. So Neela, do you want to come over?
Hi, everyone. So I want to thank you so much. I want to welcome you to a bit of a grounding and a bit of a visualization. The first thing is just to kind of orient yourself to where you are. And what I mean by that is look away from the screen and just look over to the right at any objects or shapes. It's just a way of allowing ourselves to become aware of what's in our environment right now. And don't worry about if you're doing it right or wrong, just over to the right and then over to the left. And you might look up and down and objects and shapes and colors or shades, and then back to center. Great. Take a moment now to just notice your posture without changing it. You might be hunched over. You might be leaning forward with your chin more forward. No judgments. Just now allow yourself to change your posture. Maybe sit upright for just this time. Yeah, beautiful. This is an invitation. Nothing is a demand. Just a little exercise. Yeah, and if you feel like moving your neck or you notice that tension there, just see if there is anywhere in your body that naturally wants to soften. So we're just checking in with the body. If you feel safe or if it feels comfortable, do what's right for you. Go ahead and close your eyes. Maybe just a little rest from not looking at the screen for a moment. And if not, just have a soft gaze. And this is a little bit of a visualization, not a little bit, we are doing a visualization. I'd like to bring you back into your awareness and draw on an experience in elementary, middle or high school, or university, where you connected to the joy of sport, physical activity, or movement that you loved. What comes up for you? Without analyzing it, just bring yourself back into that awareness. What sport, physical activity, or movement was it that you loved? Are you allowing yourself to flood your senses of what you experienced with this younger version of yourself? If it's accessible through memories this time in your life, Can you recall the feelings that you had? Are you able to stay with the sensations in the body when you were doing this sport or activity? And keeping this image in your mind, like you're watching a movie in your head, what comes up for you? Who at that time was supporting you? Who might have been coaching you as you were developing your skills in this area? Can you really tune in and recall, was there enthusiasm, the joy, the meaning, and your full experience of this sport or activity or movement? Continuing to stay with the visualization, what were the conditions needed for you to thrive? And was there freedom to explore the skills? If you're able to tap into the feelings that came up for you during this experience, is there anything else that comes alive in you as you reflect on this time in your life and the impact it had on you? So what images, physical sensations, or memories can you recall with this sport, this ability to move? And what were those conditions necessary for you to experience genuine meaning, joy, delight, and growth? So just take a spacious breath and allow that image of your younger self to fade. And then another breath to complete the exercise. And welcome yourself back to the screen. Thank you for your precious attention. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Neela, for doing that. And the purpose of that experience, that visualization, was to really think about yourself and the conditions that you needed in order to perform at your best and to experience joy. And I've done this visualization with many teachers over the years, and some of the things that come up are like, I needed to be left alone and just let me do my thing. I needed time to create. I needed time to practice. I needed a patient teacher and coach. I didn't want to be told what to do all the time. I didn't need to feel I always had to prove myself. I didn't want to feel pressured all of the time, and I wanted to have fun and enjoy the experience. So those are some of the things that I've heard from teachers who've gone through this visualization in the past. And why I share that is that, hang on here, I'm just trying to. So why I share that is I think it's really important to think about the conditions you needed to thrive and be at your best, and to think, to what extent are you creating the conditions necessary for your students to find deep meaning and enjoyment in their learning experiences in your PE lessons and units. So right now, I want you to just put in the chat box if you want, just out of 10. So 10 out of 10 means that you really feel you're consistently creating the conditions necessary for your students to find deep meaning and enjoyment in their learning experiences, whereas 1 would be not at all. So just throw some numbers in the chat box and I'll have Andrea or Matthew just share what's coming up.
All right, we got a lot coming through. 7, 9, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 8, 7, 8, 6, 7, 7, 6, 7, 6, 8, 7, 7, 7, 9, 7, 8, 7, 7, 7, 8, 7.
So just based on those numbers, Matthew, it sounds like there's a high percentage of teachers in this call that really feel that they do a good job at creating the conditions necessary for meaning and genuine enjoyment and joy. So that's awesome. So we're going to do our first breakout room right now. I think we said we'd do it for 7 minutes. Matthew, can you just read the questions that we want them to explore in this first breakout room?
So first question is, what came up for you in the visualization? What did it have you most think about? What are the barriers or obstacles that may stand in the way of you creating more meaningful learning experiences in your PE lesson?
So we're going to put you in groups of 3 or 4 for 7 minutes just to have this chat. And then we'll proceed forward with the rest of the session.
I think I was muted again, sorry. All right, so I'm going to open up the rooms, and I have a couple of you that just got in that will move you very shortly. So you may need to, at the bottom, hit the green button that usually says breakout room. So we'll be back here just in a little bit. And for hosts, those helping, I didn't put you down as in a breakout room. So if you want to jump in one, you should be able to have access to do that.
No, I'm good here. I keep having trouble with that. Okay, great.
And as they come back in, I have a 15-second delay on it. So Andy, I'll let you know when they're back.
Sure.
All right, we should be good to go here momentarily. People are starting to get back into the main room.
Okay, so as the people are coming in, yeah, thanks for doing that breakout room. And we had a little chat in our own group. Everybody kind of experienced the visualization in different ways, but the point is to kind of really think about the joy that you experienced as a provocation, to think about to what extent you create those same conditions. And it sounds like in our group of teachers in this session, many of you focus on that, which is awesome. So a few key questions I have before moving on is, regardless of subject area being taught, how do you carefully plan for entry points to learning for each of your students? How do you create the conditions for exploration? What types of learning do you want your students to experience? And what do you need to let go of within yourself in order to make it more about the students and their learning, rather than it being about you and what you think is best as a teacher? And I must admit that early on in my career, I didn't really differentiate at all. I didn't know how. I really had no mentor teachers. I was the only PE teacher in this small international school. I loved teaching PE, but I didn't know the first thing about differentiation. I allowed very little time for exploration. I decided the skills that the students had to improve on, and I was way too much in control of everything that was happening in class. So if you removed me, class would fall apart. because I was so teacher-centered. So over the years, obviously being in the IB and being an inquiry-based teacher, having mentors, I began to really start to tinker with my teaching. I started my podcast 10 years ago, and my goal was to bring on these world-renowned experts in the field of education to really pick their brains so I could learn from them. And one of the most powerful moments I ever had interviewing these researchers was with Professor Guy Claxton, a researcher, educational researcher out of the UK, who said on my podcast that he can distill 40 years of research into one statement: exploration before explanation. And as teachers, we can be super focused on getting the kids to have to know and understand and do right away. And his advice to any teacher out there is, please, whatever you do, allow time for the kids to truly explore before having to explain and do. And that's where all the good stuff happens. That's where the inquiry happens. That's where the kids come up with their own questions and learn what's possible. So that has been something I've really focused on probably over the past 7 or 8 years, is this idea of exploration before explanation. And I was lucky enough to connect with Dr. Tim Fletcher and his team, research team, a number of years ago, learning about meaningful physical education. And I thought early on in my career, when I was blogging and I was sharing everything on my PYP PE with Andy blog, I mean, I was just sharing what I was doing, and I felt I was doing good things. But the researchers on social media really started to challenge me. And at first I was very uncomfortable. And I felt a bit inferior too, because I'm presenting this, all of these things on my blog. But I feel that I'm doing good stuff, but it really was a hunch until I aligned with researchers who could pick my work apart and really challenge me critically to reflect on my teaching. And then I could start to make connections to the research to know that actually what I'm doing is backed by research. So I've learned so much working with Dr. Tim Fletcher and his team over the years. And just as a quick review, some people say there are 6 features. I kind of focus on 5 myself. It's that idea of joy, social interaction, personal relevance, challenge, and motor competence. So these 5 features of meaningful PE are what I've really focused on. And I really believe in my own teaching, what I have prioritized is the level of challenge. You know, if we can find the just right entry point for every kid, then every kid will have that entry point, whether it's a low entry point or a high ceiling. A lot of what I'm going to present today is rooted in self-determination theory, a theory of intrinsic motivation developed by Dr. Edward Deasy and Richard Ryan. And I was lucky enough to have Dr. Richard Ryan on my podcast a number of years ago, and I explained to him some of the ways that I was teaching, and he was thrilled to know that this was happening in a PE setting, because it really was about autonomy and competence and relatedness, the relationships you're helping to establish in your learning environment is critical for learning. Matthew mentioned that he has a copy of this book. I was lucky enough to write a chapter in this book. I'm very grateful for that, and I worked very closely with Tim. And what I'm going to present now is the work from that chapter. But before getting there, I'm going to mention the Just Right Challenge a lot today. I call it the Just Right Challenge. And when we can get every student to find what their Just Right Challenge is, it definitely maximizes student engagement. It helps students to achieve more rapid growth. It leads to students being more intrinsically motivated, and it doesn't get rid of all behavior problems, but it certainly decreases behavior problems because kids are not bored, or it's not too, bored because it's either too difficult or it's too easy. That's when behavior problems tend to increase. So if we can get kids engaged and help them find their own entry point, they're going to experience flow, and they're going to experience success, but it'll also be challenging, but just the right level of challenge. So I'm going to show what that looks like today. So going to share with you the Joy of Cycling unit that we did here. It began on a basketball court. So this was a unit that when I was an instructional coach, I co-taught, and that's what I wrote this chapter on. I was co-teaching with one of the other teachers. And we started on the basketball court with all the kids in grade 5, not all the kids, but like 2 classes combined on their bikes. And we had them just kind of ride the lines, doing a pre-assessment on their level of skill, riding on the lines, avoiding each other, working on spatial awareness, all of that in the first lesson. Obviously stressing safety. We did what's called the ABC check, air, brakes, chain. But we were really interested in doing this pre-assessment on the kids' level of ability in terms of riding a bicycle. And that moved into, well, we had a driving question. So I always start with this idea of a driving question with every lesson and every unit. So what we did the first couple lessons of that first week was like, what are some challenges you have when riding a bicycle? So right away, we could see that some kids were more competent than others, and we just kind of let them explore different areas around the basketball court. But we were always going back to what are some just right challenges for you? So we had the kids riding on grass, on stone, on dirt and sand, so different terrains. And as an exit ticket, we had them identify on sticky notes what they found challenging. And then we essentially categorized these ideas, these challenges into themes. And we more or less came up with these 7 themes for this combined class of grade 5. So it was that idea of changing speeds when riding slow, fast, slow, balancing and positioning, keeping their focus, riding in narrow places, practicing their hand signals, controlling their speed when riding downhill, and keeping their focus when cars are around. We were saying, pretend that every bicycle is a car. So they were riding around other students, sometimes keeping their focus was a challenge. So what you see on there are some sticky dots. So what we've enacted right away is student voice. So I could sit there till I'm blue in the face and tell them everything that I think is going to be challenging for them, but that's pointless because it's coming from me. So using this sticky note exit ticket strategy was great at unpacking what they found challenging. And then we introduced the 3-dot strategy. So red means impossible, yellow means I can do it, but it's not easy. It's challenging. And green is it's very easy for me, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then we had the kids in week 2 start to explore further, tackling these different challenges, and then self-assessing using the sticky dot. So they would write their name on the sticky dot, and then they would put the sticky dot down on the challenge. So again, you can see a few greens on there. That means that they are very competent at riding in narrow places. You see a yellow there. But over the course of a week and a half or so, we had lessons twice a week. We had the kids do these self-assessments. So I go back to assessment capable learners who can self-adjust, what I said at the start. So that was the goal here. So you can see the reds are impossible. So we had some, even though it was grade 5, we had some kids that were just learning how to ride a bike and they couldn't take one hand off to do hand signals. So they stayed on the basketball court to work on that, where the other kids could start to explore more and more of the different terrains around the basketball court. So halfway through the unit, we decided to take the show on the road. Once most of the kids were competent, they could do hand signals, demonstrate safety. We kept some kids back at the school with the teaching assistant to have them continue to work on basic riding. But we have a sand, kind of a desert area about 700 meters from the school. So this is where we introduce the idea of level up, level down. So this is the self-adjust, either down or up, depending on the challenge. So once we got to that desert area, we had the kids identify which challenge they wanted to tackle. And then they would go ahead and do that. So you can imagine we could see all 30, 35 kids just spread out about 150 meters around us. They were in eyesight at all times. So some of them just wanted to practice riding on a soft surface, which meant they had to learn how to stand up and really use from a standing position, kind of get power to ride through softer surfaces. So that was a just right challenge for some students. This girl, Mona, she is a Saudi girl, had just learned how to ride a bike, and then she wanted to tackle going down and up hills. So look at the smile on her face on the left. Joy and meaning, for sure. I was so proud of this moment. And halfway through the unit, she was like, Mr. Andy, my bike is terrible. Please email my dad and tell him to buy me a new bike. So she was obviously intrinsically motivated to ride and to keep riding and challenging herself. So that's Mona on her new bike near the end of the unit with a new helmet. And look at her tackling these hills. It was great to see. And then she started to ride her bike every day to school. This boy wanted to catch some air. So we built little ramps for him. And again, we told parents what was going on, that these kids would, if the parents were uncomfortable with the kid wants to jump. Are you okay with your child doing that? Parents would say, yes, no problem. But this kid wanted to catch some air, so he built little jumps. This boy was already an accomplished cyclist in New Zealand, and he wanted to work on his stunts. And the first time I saw him do that, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, there's no possible way I can let him do this. Emailed the parents. The parents were like fully on board with letting him practice his stunts. And then he started to teach the other kids how to do some of these stunts. Just riding up and down hills, whatever it was, the idea was find your just right challenge. And it's student driven. So we ended up also showing them different ways that you could ride.
That's it. Good work.
And then near the end of the unit, they started to tackle some bigger, more steeper hills.
Nice. Okay, who's up? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So this kid's building up the nerve, just right challenge. He's a bit unsteady, but he does it. The next girl
Okay.
decides to
Okay, just stay back on that.
tackle even a different challenge. Watch me, she says. And then she tries to go on the far side up the other hill. So awesome.
Nice.
So what's really cool in this unit is that we had one girl who had a disability. She needed to ride a three-wheeler. She was really embarrassed at the start of the unit, but she gained more and more confidence. And then she found her just right challenge, which was to go down a gentle slope.
Andy, do you mind taking a small pause?
Hey, Mud, your
Sure.
turn, buddy.
Question from the chat. Would the school provide the bikes, or was this something asked of the parents?
Yeah, great question. The kids all brought their own bikes from home. We're a closed compound, so all the kids ride bikes. So they brought their bikes, but one of the teachers here, Rhys in Budapest, Hungary, he just finished a cycling unit, and the school bought 17 bikes or something like that. So in our case, no, it was the kids all had bikes. Show you the last video. This is a kid who.
Hey, Andy, I could add.
Yeah, go ahead, Jorge.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit to that about the purchasing of bikes, because there is a little bit of leeway there. I know when I was in kindergarten, we also did a bike unit, and we had some tricycles, we had some scooters, and we had some different wheeled vehicles that the kids would use, and those were purchased by the school, right? So we still taught them bike safety, and we were still able to do like an appropriate bike unit for them to kind of lead them into this kind of bike unit. And I know in secondary school, they have a handful of bikes. So if a kid doesn't have a bike, or if a kid his bike breaks or something like that, they can kind of give him a loaner bike, and they make sure that those are maintained. So I just want to kind of add to that, where most of the kids will ride to school, but there are also opportunities for those who might not be able to, or they have some kind of difficulty with their bike.
Yeah, thanks for adding that. And the wheels unit in kindergarten is great here. It totally sets up grade 1 students for riding. And the next assessment strategy that I want to share with you based on self
Andy?
Andy, hang
Sorry.
on. One question in the video, Maria.
Sure.
Sorry, but I think that more than a bicycle unit, I have been a lot of classes with you, and the most important thing here is the capable learners. I have been using with motor skills, with balls, with ropes, giving the challenge to the kids, and they really work great. Even if it's a bike, we don't have that chance because all the parents things and everything. We work that in differentiation with simple things like throw the ball up, or lower coordination, lower body coordination, or even running. So the thing here is how we work even with the dots. I use it, but the red is not impossible. We add the component of the yet. I cannot do it yet. So
yet.
there they feel really comfortable of what they can do for themselves. So they pick a travel by themselves. It's really nice work.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for mentioning that. And I think it's this idea, as you're saying, assessment capable learners who can self-adjust. And I'll keep going back to that. So we couldn't bring the dots and the posters out, to the desert area. But what we did was we just brought green, yellow, red cards. And then the kids, depending on what the challenge was, at the end of the class, they picked the card that best represented their learning and also showed the number on their hand out of 10. So you can see those 3 girls right there were greens, but most of them are yellows. And that's what we want. We want yellows. So those 3 greens ended up leveling up the next class. So another assessment's quick check-in. I mean, this takes 30 seconds. Grab a card and hold it up, and then I get a photo of it. So I have evidence of them self-assessing and learning. Those 3 girls self-adjusted their learning based on this being green. Next class, they picked a more difficult challenge. So I'm going to hand it over to my friend Rhys right now to go through what he's doing with some of these exit tickets. So you'll get an example of that. So Rhys, are you with us?
Yeah, just had to hit unmute, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm Rhys Meredith. I teach elementary PE at the American International School of Budapest, and I've been working with Andy for about 3 years now. And we've been exchanging ideas on a really regular basis to do with exit tickets and formative assessment and self-assessment. So I've got a few examples here. So why use an exit ticket? Use an exit ticket to build a culture of honoring student voice, so that the students know that you hear them and you're at least listening to them. This also helps to create a more meaningful experience for the students, as they have a bit more say over what they're doing in PE. Going back to what Andy said, it creates assessment-capable learners who can self-adjust. It sets them up for success in other subjects and helps them to be reflective learners. And it helps to make sure that the teaching and learning is based off formative assessment to meet the needs of all students. So everyone is having an input, and we try and do things for the benefit of all. Firstly, what I did as my first exit ticket right at the beginning of the year in August, I asked the students what they needed from me to help be their best in PE, and this is an example of what they came up with. To be fair, to not allow cheating, treat everyone the same. And that's just something that I will go back with them, so that they know that I'm paying attention to it, and that what they say and what their opinions are, they really matter. Next one.
Rhys, can I just add one thing here? So what you see on the left is like Rhys uses a projector on the gym wall and has the driving questions. So I write the posters by hand. He's chosen to do it this way, and it works really well. Then they just leave the sticky notes right on the wall on the slide from the projector. So really cool that the way that he modified it for his own space. So yeah, go ahead, Rhys.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. At the start of every unit that we're doing, so this is an example from a striking and fielding unit, I asked every kid in grades 3, 4, and 5 something that they really wanted to do in the striking and fielding unit. And then so I collected them all up, grouped them together, and I actually showed the students this, that they were all grouped up and that everyone was looked at, and that what they said matters, and it just gives them more of an ownership of the unit, and it also helps to build the trust between myself and the other students, and strengthen the relationship between us. Next one. So in that striking and fielding unit, I shared this picture with the students when we were doing a lesson of T-ball, and I asked them to think about which of the balls would be best, or they felt most comfortable hitting, and they had a variety of balls that they could use. And then they just voted for which one they felt, and then that helped to give me so much information going forward for the next lessons.
Rhys,
Yeah,
we have a
and
hand raised if we can for just a
Sure.
second.
yeah, go ahead.
Isufo, if I said that
Yeah.
correctly.
Yes, it's correct. So I would like to ask for Rhys. He said that one of the things that he does for as a ticket to know what the students will do during the unit is asking them. So in some schools, we plan units before we go give the unit to the students. I would like to know if he will have to adjust the units, or first he do a research from the students and then he plan the unit.
Yeah, thanks for asking. That's a great question. I mean, generally from that example of striking and fielding, we kind of know which sports that we can focus on based on the space we have and the equipment that we have. So we'll try and include everything that they say. If they say something that's impossible for us to do, then we'll just have a conversation with that student saying, thanks for suggesting this. Unfortunately, we can't do this right now, but I just wanted to acknowledge that you said that, and we would try our best to do that. Mostly what we find is what the students tell us they want to do, we had already in mind to do already. So it's not that much of adjusting to do. Thanks for that. Yeah, so then continuing with our striking and fielding unit, we did T-ball, and we had like 10 of those tees going up and down the school field. And we, before the lesson, we asked the students to think what was stopping them from hitting the ball absolutely perfectly. And they went away, they did the activity, and then when they came back in, they just literally moved the magnet as they were leaving. And then this gives me so much information. I showed the students this at the beginning of the next lesson, and we spoke about strategies that we could do to stop the students hitting the tee so much, as that seemed to be the one that they had the most trouble with. So if you look on the next slide, we spoke about what strategies they could do to not hit the tee. And then I asked them at the end of the lesson, we repeated the lesson. They were hitting from the tee again. Were they able to hit better? And that gives us a good reading that most were able to hit better from the happy face and the sad face, and that gives us an indication that what we talked about was a success.
Yeah, and again, Rhys, I just want to emphasize again, assessment capable learners, right, who can self-adjust by learning strategies. So really good examples.
No, thanks for that. Yeah. And then going forward to a grade 5 net and wall games unit, we was focusing on volleyball, and we're going back to what Andy was saying about exploration before explanation. We would give students time to explore with the equipment and with their friends at the start of every one of these lessons. And then at the end of the lesson, we spoke about what makes a good volleyball serve. And we asked the students to give feedback on what they felt was a good volleyball serve. And it really gave the students ownership of this, and they felt proud of themselves for being able to help others, because this would always be up on the projector or on the gym wall for the students to remind them how to do it and how to act. And it would be in student-friendly language as well that they could understand.
Rhys, I have 2 questions in the chat if you're willing to pause.
Of course.
First one is, how many weeks do you teach one unit, and how many lessons in that?
Yeah, so generally our units last about 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. It really depends on when we have like breaks and weeks off and stuff. So we try to time it so that it's kind of the unit is in between two breaks. So it's a nice kind of fit there. And we, when I first started at our school, we had 40-minute lessons 3 times a week. This year it's gone down to 40-minute lessons, but 2 times a week. And then next year we're changing to 50-minute lessons 2 times a week. So we get to see them a bit more next year.
The second question, do you prompt at all, for example, if students have not been exposed to activities in a variety of striking and fielding games, such as cricket, and might not know what it is? For example, do you list striking and fielding games, or do you leave it open?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can kind of see at the side of this picture here. That's sorry, this slide. I've got I have examples and pictures going up the side of the board with examples and key words. So I will try and prompt, and I will try and as the students are coming in, I'll be showing them videos of particular striking and fielding games to try and expose the ones who aren't familiar with some of the games, just so that they can see it, so it's more visual for them.
And then I'm going to ask a question to everybody in the chat, because I think this would be a good one to answer from all of our knowledge. I'm having some problems basically with the students in my classes wanting to play the professional activities like basketball, soccer, football. What are ways that I can integrate different subjects in PE to help with this? Yeah, so I would love to see some answers.
So like what I've been doing, that's a great question. We're right in the middle of a invasion games unit. So I did the same with our invasion games unit. I asked all of the students from grade 1 to grade 5 any invasion games that they wanted to do, and of course the ones that come up are basketball, soccer, some kinds of dodgeball. So we always try and honor that, is that those were the most popular. But we'll kind of say that we will do them for 1 or 2 lessons, but we want to expose the students to different kinds of invasion games. So, for example, I've done I do at the moment Gaelic football and tag rugby, and I just have an honest conversation with the students and just say the reason we're going to do tag rugby and Gaelic football is because not a lot of people play it, so it's a more level playing field, and in the different ranges of skills and experience, so that they understand why that we're going to play those certain games. And also, when I do a soccer lesson, when it comes to playing the matches, we give the students an option. We'll all do the same skills together, but then when it comes to playing the matches, they can play matches on one side, or they can just explore and have some free time on the other to practice their skills. So we're catering for the different abilities during those games. Or actually, also, I'm lucky that I have a co-teacher, and so what we do is we would split the class into 2 and say you can either choose to do soccer or basketball, and then the students are making a commitment to being fully engaged and doing any of the games that they want to do. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Where are we? So there were. Could we just go back to the other slides, if that's okay? Yeah. So this one is just a simple check-in with the students about how they felt with their volleyball serve. So they could look at the criteria for a good volleyball serve, and then in one lesson we asked them how they felt about it, and they indicated there. And if they indicated, can I have some help, we would do a clinic with them, and we would give them specific guidance on how to help them to do that. And then the second one is at the end of the other lesson, and it's clear from the magnets that it's generally they felt more confident and improved. And also what we would do, talking about Andy's just right challenges, the students, when they're doing this volleyball serve, can choose any ball that they feel comfortable with. It could be a beach ball, it could be a proper volleyball, it could be a plastic ball. So we're giving them plenty of options for that just right challenge. So yeah, and then we just a simple, did you enjoy the lesson, yes or no? This gives us so much feedback, especially from the no column. And what I found asking this question is that the students all like the lesson, but the reasons they give for not liking the lesson don't have anything to do with specific game or sport. It's mainly to do with the behaviors around the lesson and with other people.
Which is really valuable to know, for sure.
And then we asked the students which activity did they enjoy the most, and this is in a net and wall games unit, so it's in a different context. And I really wanted to find out why did they prefer badminton over table tennis or wall ball, and it just gave us a lot of information here that would help us to inform our planning. And it's a great way to show the students that we're listening, and that what they say is valued, and these would be pinned up on the gym wall for them to see. Yeah, so dance is a unit that can throw up a lot of emotions. So you had the ones who were really excited about dance, and the ones who would rather do anything else. And so when we started the unit, I got them to complete this exit ticket, and I gave them the sentence stem, I feel, and then there's a picture of the emotions about dance, because, and they had to pick the emotion, write it on the sticky note, and then put it on a wall along a line between excited and fear. And that just gave me so much information from them. Moving on to the next one. I looked at all the reasons why students did not like to dance from the exit tickets. And then so what the students would do here, they would write what they would say to someone who found dance for example, they were embarrassed to dance, the one right in the center there, and they would come up with solutions for them to get over it. Or the one in the bottom right, they were too tired to dance. What could they say to someone who said that to them? And then what we would do with that is, on the next slide, we took all of their reasons to help and support people to dance, and that if they were, and we created these posters. So if students were feeling that they didn't like to perform for an audience, which is the poster I've got slightly bigger, they could look at all those different reasons or ways that students could get over that fact of performing for an audience. And that was a really meaningful experience for them. And they were shocked that I would go to all the time to create these and read every single exit ticket. And going through and doing all that really showed them that I was caring about them, and that what they've got to say is more valued. And it really helped to strengthen the relationship between myself and the students. And that's that part. If anyone would like to connect with me, I would really like to get any feedback on those slides, or if anyone would like any to talk about that, and please message me on Twitter or email me. I would relish any opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Rhys. And I love, everything that Rhys has shared is activating student voice with consistency. So there's a culture of it. And I've seen this culture develop over time. And I've been there, I've co-taught with Rhys. I've seen the students like really engaged in their learning. And what Rhys is showing you does not take a lot of time in class. So he just analyzes the data, and then he keeps these spreadsheets. So he's really showing deep accountability, especially to administration, and he has metrics in place and data to show what's working and what's not, and taking action on changing his program as a result. I'm going to pause there, and Matthew, let's do the second breakout. We'll do it for 5 minutes. Based on what you've seen so far, maybe Matthew, you can ask the questions that are there, and then I'll share a few more strategies before the end of the webinar.
Yeah, so we're going to do what resonates with you the most so far. What are some new strategies that you feel could apply right now, and what obstacles might stand in the way? I've redesigned the breakout rooms to put more people, so some of you hopefully will not be in a room by yourself at that. So we'll see you back here in a few minutes. 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Yeah, okay.
I might just need to move a few of the people who might have popped in. Oh, there's a lot of people. All right.
Andrea and Jessica, have you guys made any connections to the standards?
Yes,
Yeah,
we've been
each
throwing
put some
some
in.
stuff in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen the chat. So maybe when they come back.
And it looks like we have just over 15 minutes left in our time break that you had set. All right, the breakout room's closing and everybody should be back in approximately 10 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. So I just want to say that this 90-minute webinar is actually a whole weekend workshop, to be honest, and there's so much in here. And I really wanted to bring Rhys in to show how he has modified our work to take some of my initial ideas, but then run with them in his own way, which has been outstanding. The one thing I think a super useful strategy that I just explained to the group helping me out here is the challenge scale on the wall of the gym. And this is actually a music class from one of the music teachers I've coached. So it's this idea of far left is easy peasy lemon squeezy, far right is impossible at this point, with challenging in the middle. So he didn't use 1 through 10. He just kept it like this. And then what he did was modified the song selection down the far left. So you can see the little white cards. Those are actually songs going from at the top. I think it was most difficult at the top, going down to the easiest at the bottom. The kids explore melody instruments, they pick a song, and then he can stop class and then have the kids go stand under the challenge scale. So he did a little demonstration of what it was like. And then the kids would stand under the assessment scale. So they assessed easy peasy lemon squeezy, but it was actually more a yellow. So if the student get asked, what if the student assesses himself too high? Well, that's when you step in and have a conversation, say, no, I really think you're a yellow for these reasons. But it's that idea to do this quick check-in. So you imagine as a gym teacher, you're keeping the challenge scale on the wall. It might be 10 meters wide, 20 meters wide. You've got all this thing, all these things happening in the gym. You blow the whistle, go stand under the challenge scale right now. The best represents where you're at with the task that you're working on. And then the kids go stand under the scale. You say to the yellows, okay, great job. You're the right entry point for sure. It's challenging, not too challenging, not too easy. Get back, go continue. And then you keep the greens and the reds to talk about what they need to do to self-adjust. So really useful strategy to have the challenge scale on the wall of the gym. So I'm going to flip forward to my most recent unit here. And I'm really proud of this work because I pushed my thinking to a new level. And it was a racket sports unit. Okay, so we haven't done racket sports since before COVID. And we have racket sports available in the community. So that's why we want to have this unit. So week 1 and 2 of the unit was exploration before explanation, and exploring what's possible at stations with different rackets, modified equipment, all kinds of equipment. And at the end of the lesson, how much are you enjoying this unit so far? 1, 2, or 3? Just using their fingers when they're lined up at the door. 3s and 2s, thank you. You can go. 1s, stay with me. What do you need more of or less of from me next time to turn your 1 into a 2? And then they give me some ideas. I write them down. We ask them, what are your biggest challenges? And then at the end of the second week, we said, what 2 racket sports do you want to focus on the most in the rest of the unit? So they picked pickleball and badminton. So weeks 3 and 4, we had them explore sports-specific stations for pickleball, sports-specific for badminton, working on the techniques. Again, exit ticket. How much are you enjoying this unit? 1, 2, 3. 2s and 3s, thank you. 1s, stay with me. What do you need more of or less of to turn your 1 into a 2? I keep asking that same question. I get so much good stuff. And then what we did was we had the students make a choice for the final 2 weeks of the unit. And we used a Excel sheet to record the data. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a minute. Weeks 5 and 6 was focus, purpose, intensity. They could pick either pickleball or badminton, tournament, or just for fun. So in each of those sports. and we had them self-assess to what extent they were enjoying it. So this is what the Excel sheet looked like. So we had them pick pickleball or badminton, and we had a number of kids choose badminton, probably 75%. And then they picked the tournament or just for fun, and then self-assessed their level of skill, 3, 2, 1. So 3 meant they were really skilled, 2, they were skilled, and 1 was that they didn't have a lot of confidence in their skills. So we took that information and then we created the conditions for either a badminton tournament or a pickleball tournament, or badminton just for fun, or pickleball just for fun. And then at the end of the first lesson and the second lesson of week 5, we simply had them go to the poster that represented their choice of sport. And what I most wanted to know was I gave them autonomy. You know, it wasn't just pickleball or badminton, it was tournament or just for fun. So they actually had 4 choices. So again, going back to self-determination theory, intrinsic motivation depends on autonomy. And then kids can develop their competence based on their choice, hopefully. So green means they fully enjoy their choice. Yellow means they're enjoying it, but red meant they weren't enjoying it. So it was a non-negotiable that the reds had to give me feedback on what would make it better for them next time. So you can see a couple reds popping into the picture there. So like Rhys, doing this check-in provides you with so much information. So over the last 2 weeks, the end of class, literally the dots were ready to go. It took 1 minute. Just write their name on the sticky dot, put it down, give us feedback. What we found was taking their feedback about from the reds and even yellows and greens optional could leave feedback. So what we found was these 6 themes were revealed. Some teams were breaking the rules. It was boring sitting out and waiting to get a court in the tournament. They didn't like who their partner was. Teams were unfair. Games were not challenging. My partner enters my space too much and hits all my shots. So I can sit there and give them solutions, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get them to turn and talk the next lesson to come up with solutions. And they came up with solutions. And I listened to them and we implemented their solutions. Student-driven, student-centered. Now we got them to continue to self-assess. Now look at the evidence here. The red's turning to yellow, or the yellow's turning to green. In most cases, it was an improvement. But there were some kids who moved backwards. So we had some greens move to red. We had some yellows move to red. We had some greens move backwards. But most of the evidence was positive, that because we implemented the right student voice and solutions, they were enjoying it more. So, but we were still getting feedback from them throughout the last 2 weeks. And what we found was none of the students made the wrong choice. We didn't have one student say they made the wrong choice. They wish they would have picked a tournament instead of just for fun. It was all social and emotional reasons. So again, connecting the social and emotional outcomes to this reflection is really important. So regardless of the unit, I don't care what the unit is. It's like constantly doing these check-ins to honor their voice and to really take action on that. And that's where the greatest learning lies, and so much accountability because you have evidence of having listened to them and take action on it. So what was cool at the end of this unit, so this unit ended about a week and a half ago. I had the parents come in on the weekend with their kids. They could sign up, and we did racket sports, and I had the parents self-assessing their skills and really showing the types of assessment that we're doing. And some of the parents were saying, I'm going to do this at home. Is your homework the homework you're working on right now? Is it too difficult? Is it too easy? Is it just right? And begin to use this language of checking in with them consistently to honor their voice and figure out what's happening for them. So I have so many more examples, but for the sake of time, it's 8:23. We were going to do one last breakout, but I'd rather just take the time right now. I would love for you to just reflect for a minute on, I know many of you, all of you are really doing good things in your program already with assessment. And again, my hope was that you would have one idea to walk away with. And I'd really like to hear what that one idea might be and a commitment that you can make regarding that one idea. Like, what's a commitment that you can make? The breakout room, we were going to talk about what is one commitment you can make based on any new strategies that you've learned in this webinar, and what might get in the way of you effectively applying this strategy. So I would love to hear in the chat box now, or see in the chat box, what has resonated with you and what's something you think you can apply straight away in your teachings. So start filling up the chat box.
Betsy is saying that our time has gone quickly and maybe we need a part 2.
Oh, I would love to do a part 2.
Give time to explain, to explore before explaining. And Andrea said the racket unit connects with the Shape America Standard 4, the new standards. Bob says ACL, student voice, exploration before explanation. Voices and choices.
Mhm.
Prior knowledge of activities. Use effective ways to receive student voice through various types of exit tickets. Color coding system. And I think the color coding system, Plickers, could play into that if you wanted a digital version of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Practical examples are easy to modify in different classroom environments and activities. Figure out a way to utilize this with student teachers and supervising them. Student voice, ACL assessment, capable learners in phys ed. Thanks, Bob. 3-dot strategy, student choice of activities, exploration and explanation. That seems to be a big one. I have changed
And
my
that's
practice over your visit. I love the discover time and exit tickets.
Yeah, Matthew, I just wanted to say the exploration before explanation, you definitely have to let go of something within yourself. I mean, I struggled with this when I first started doing it, because I felt like I was, if somebody was to walk in, what are the kids actually doing while they're exploring before having to do? But it's so important, and you got to be okay with that exploration time, provided the stations are set up in a way that are purposeful and intentional, and that at each station is differentiated. So it's not just one way to do the thing at the station. It's like you've got multiple equipment to work on a forehand or backhand with modified balls, whatever it is. But I know we're running out of time. I just want to tell a quick story, and then we'll sign off. So I was working with a group of teachers in Asia yesterday, and the teachers were struggling with how they can put this into action because they have their curriculum that they have to teach, and they couldn't get their head around it. And I said, this is not an add-on. This is just embedded into everything that you do with your kids. And they're like, where do we begin? And I said, okay, well, how about just the last minute of class when the kids are leaving, you do a 3, 2, 1. How engaged were you with your learning today? 3 out of 3, really engaged. 2 out of 3, I was engaged, but 1 out of 3, not very much. And then it's saying goodbye to the 2s and 3s and keeping the 1s, and going back to that stock question I always ask, what do you need more of or less of from me to make your experience better next time? And I write it down, and I start the next lesson by mentioning that and making sure those conditions are in place. And I won't say it works 100% of the time, but it turns the 1s into 2s, and I'll check in with them. So I told them, just do that. That even if you do nothing else, forget the posters and the sticky dots and all of that, just checking in that way is so important. A little selfless plug. I would love for you to tune into my podcast. I have a lot of great conversations on the podcast from experts in the field. I've learned so much from it. It's the Run Your Life podcast. It's on all the major podcast players. But like Jorge, podcasting has really changed me at the core, and I've learned so much. So I just wanted to share my podcast, and I wanted to thank the team helping today. Thank you very much. I know it was a quick 90 minutes. I'm happy to do another session maybe in the summer. So much more to share, but so little time. So everybody, thank you very much. You can be in touch with me if you want to have a conversation. Thank you, Rhys, for presenting. I love your work. Keep sharing what you're doing because you're making such a difference. And everybody, yeah, thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much. Matthew, final words, sir.
Thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to give a shout out to Jessica and Andrea, who I pulled out on an early Saturday morning for us in our local time to help out. I'm always in awe of the people that I find myself in a room with. Today's digital. And I learn from other people, and that's where I think my hidden strength is more or less being this dumbest guy in the room. And I own that a lot, and I grow from that so much. And I see so many amazing people in this room that I know, and I can only imagine in the international realm, how many of you are those people internationally that I don't know yet. So thank you all for joining us Saturday, Sunday, evening, morning, middle of the day. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, and lastly, Jorge, final word. Maybe he's not here.
Hey, sorry, I kind of, my internet is going in and out, so I apologize for that. But no, just to kind of echo what Matthew said, I really appreciate Andy. I really appreciate everybody who chimed in and participated. Just like what Matthew said, I learned so much from these webinars, and I really enjoy the energy that I get from these. They're always sort of rejuvenating for me. So I appreciate all of you and all of your efforts. And Andy, thank you so much for sharing what you do. You've been a mentor to me, and I really appreciate everything that you do. So thank you so much. And I hope everybody has a great night or day or evening or afternoon or wherever you are in the world. Thank you all so much.
Okay, thanks, Jorge. And yeah, thank you, everybody. Matthew, Andrea, Jessica, can you all stay on the line? I just want to have a chat. Everybody, thanks very much. Okay. That's a wrap.
Thank you a lot. Bye, everyone. Good night or good evening.
Thank
Salud.
you.
Salud, like we say in Chile.
Thanks, Mr. Andy. Muito obrigado. Até a próxima.
Thanks.
See you next
I'll
time.
talk to you soon, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Bye.
So, Matthew, so you